Hey, welcome back to the channel. You see three knives before you today. These three knives have caused a lot of confusion, of hate, of anger with knife collectors today. All of them are slip joint knives. That's what we're going to be talking about today. And I'm going to try to explain to you why they cause so much confusion, why they shouldn't, and why you shouldn't even compare these knives together in the first place. And if you'd like to hear more about that, go ahead and check out the video. Okay, so let's talk about Rosecraft. Rosecraft is an American company started in 2022 that has achieved absolutely spectacular success. Probably one of the quickest upstarts ever, and mainly because of the quality of these knives and the affordability of them. So they've merged, a very nice knife, very high quality at an affordable price that's just hard to beat. And man, they've got a tremendous following in the knife community. They make traditional and modern folders. Right now, they're outsourced to other countries, but in the traditional genre, which we're concerned with, these knives have a classic traditional feel to them, but a modern manufactured technique that creates a very high quality knife, which is very appealing to people, especially when you package that in a $50 price range. So, these knives will trend between $30 and $70 or $80, depending on, the kind of materials that they provide. But they offer a lot of, even though they're classic patterns, they offer a lot of design innovation, so they're really well thought out. You take this classic kayak, not the first time this knife has been made, but it has design features that just kind of set it apart. One, it's made in kayaks were usually larger knives. This is a smaller format. You have a really nice angle on this knife, and that's what I'm talking about, well designed. That creates a very good cutting experience for you. It's very functional, very modern design blade on it, and yet you still have the classic traditional wedge on here. So it's just a merging of old and new, and that's kind of the hallmark of the company. Just very well designed, thought out, high quality, affordable knives. So that's what they're all about. Case, a very old company, producing these traditional patterns as well as modern patterns for 130 years. They've gone through many challenges, and in 2000, they embraced a philosophy, a collector philosophy. And so the demand for these traditional type of knives were going away. And so Case embraced this collector philosophy where they're providing traditional patterns and a traditional manufacturer, but creating a lot of different colors, jigs, patterns, and also design innovations. to create a collector experience for folks. And again, these are modestly priced, you know, in the $30 to $100 range. These knives, for the most part, are quality made. The sacrifice, and they're made in America, the sacrifice that they make to do that is on the quality. And so it's not that they're not quality made. Many of the case knives I have are quality made, but some are not. Some are just marginal problems that you find in a knife that most people wouldn't even notice. Some of them are really bad. And the problem with Case is consistency. And they produce a lot of knives. They're producing over 1.2 million knives a year, 100,000 a month. So to hit those kind of production levels and to provide the cost benefit that they do, you know, they're cutting some corners. And so that's where Case is coming from. GEC is also a new startup, started in 2006, Great Eastern Cutlery. Their philosophy was to produce high quality traditional knives. And I think they've for the most part achieved that. It's not that the company is not without its problems also, but they, on average, if you compare the GEC with the Case, GEC has a much more consistent quality level than Case does, and that's the allure of these knives. Retail these knives don't cost a whole lot more, maybe a 20-30% premium over a Case, but the problem is that they're in such high demand that scalpers scoop up all these knives and then sell them for 2 to 4 times the price of the knife. And that's the problem with GEC. But I think currently they produce around 30,000 knives a year, a much, much lower production level than Case does. And that's how they achieve their high quality consistently. And so definitely a different philosophy than Case. They're not looking to produce as many knives as they can. And another difference that you find in these two knives, because Case is a collector knife, the best way to explain it, I guess, would say bling. And so Case oftentimes puts a lot more bling into their knives for the collector to have something different. And this is an example of that right here. So this is genuine bone, and you have a beautiful scrolled genuine bone, multicolored cover on it, and then you have fine etching here with some really cool XX on there, and then the scroll work down on the other side here. And this is, for the most part, is a really nice knife, and made well, and it's in the $100 range. And so that's what this was, a large knife. And that's how Case brings bling to it. GEC, they're much more muted. They try to produce designs that have not been produced in a long time, or were produced, you know, pre-1940. The scale materials are much more conventional. The design features, like the bling, is a lot hardly ever put onto the knife. The biggest bling you get usually is a couple threads on the bolsters, but you get a very, very well made knife. And so that's the differences in these knives. And let's talk about why you shouldn't compare them. All right, to start, you shouldn't compare a Rosecraft to a case or a GEC, because this is a foreign-produced knife using state-of-the-art technology that allows them to produce a very high-quality knife at a very affordable price. So totally different design philosophy. And although these knives are just fantastic, I have a bunch of them. This is a new one, by the way, that I got. But to me, even though this is a traditional knife in that, you know, it has a back spring, that's what makes it traditional, and can look very similar to other traditional knives. For instance, in this pattern, a moose pattern. To me, these knives, I guess the best way to put it is they lack soul. And so very cool design features, but not really traditionally made or designed. And although they're very fine knives and very good for everyday carry, they really just don't have the same feel as a case or a GEC knife, because they're largely machined, and it's kind of hard to articulate. When you hold these knives, when you use them, you're just acutely aware that there's something different about the knives. And I boil that down to what I call a soul. There's just a different kind of feel and look that a knife that is put together by hand and manufactured in a less precise manner feels in your hand. That's the best way to describe it. And so you really can't compare these knives at all towards one and another. If you look at the case, you have a company has a different, most often these two are compared together, and you have companies that have a different manufacturing philosophy here. This is a company trying to produce a traditional classic pattern of knife at an affordable cost, to knife enthusiasts, whereas this is a company that's more of a price point knife, and by that I mean, you know, price point manufacturers have a good example is Rosecraft, or not Rosecraft, is Rough Rider knives, and so they produce a knife at a certain price point to a quality standard that's acceptable for that price point. And that's really what Case has done. They're producing price point knives in that $40 to $80 range mostly, that provide a really good collector experience for most folks. And they really have some quality issues. But a lot of those quality issues that they have are minor and caused by their manufacturing philosophy, which is to pump these knives out, which lowers the cost of the knife. You have to remember they're manufactured in America in a fairly traditional fashion, and that produces this knife. There's really no way you can compare this price point knife to a GEC. Totally different manufacturing philosophies. This is a knife that purposely tries to be high quality and doesn't really try to achieve all that bling that you see with Case knives. It doesn't really try to compete with the vast variety of colors and patterns and and different design features like etching that you can find on a case knife, and they're not really compatible. You have a knife that's mass produced for the greatest number of people for the lowest possible price with the best possible quality that you could get within that price range. And that's why these are much more consistent. It's not that these are perfect, but overall the quality level on these knives are much more consistent than these knives right here. The two knives I'm holding, by the way, are completely comparable. So this is as perfect a knife as you're going to get. There's no gaps on here. There's no problems in this knife whatsoever. You have good line up here, amazingly so. You can see the space down in between those blades. Very, looks like a precision built knife. High mirror polish, beautifully colored bone, perfectly done. And you couldn't say that this knife is better than this knife. You can say that the Stag is better. It's a more premium material than this knife, but that's just luck of the draw. I had to get a knife that were opposing end about the same size. So you can get this kind of perfection in a case knife. I have a lot of case knives that are like this, but I also have case knives that are not. And so this one right here has some very minor, it's hard to see it really. There's a very minor gapping in this knife. You can kind of see it right there. But that's the only problem with this knife. So all these blades have really good separation between them. The knife operates fine. Made really well. Really remarkably for what you get for the price I paid for this knife. It is remarkable. You get all of this for the price I paid for it. But so yeah, they're different knives, different manufacturing philosophies. And they're just not the same. And I just did it. I just compared these two just to point out the quality levels on them. But the fact is that, you know, these are really mass-produced price point knives. These are high quality traditional folders that are made a very specific way. And so you shouldn't and really can't compare a GEC. The GEC is not even in the same league as a case, or I should say case is not in the same league as a GEC. Totally different knife than this knife right here, as is this knife. So this knife is a fantastic knife. I can't say enough about these knives, good things about these knives. But it's not the same knife as this knife right here. And that's the difference in manufacturing philosophies within the companies themselves and what they're trying to produce. So I hope that all makes sense to y'all. It shouldn't upset you. The difference between these two knives, between a GEC and a case, they're just different knives and different manufacturing philosophies. And when you try to produce a price point knife at a certain price point, you know, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get a knife that is not as high quality. Now, if Case were to slow down their production and concentrate on quality instead, you'd get a knife like this. This knife is very well made, and you're going to pay a lot more for it. So instead of paying $70-something for this knife, I think I paid, you'd end up paying $130. You'd see a tremendous price increase, and so that's what Case does. It's also an on-demand thing. I mean, we go online all the time, don't we? And buy these things. We're buying 2 knives a week, sometimes more. Sometimes, 10 knives a month, sometimes more. Some guys buy more. And you're just not going to do that with GEC because they don't make enough to do that. And so GEC guys, tend to buy maybe 1 a month, or 1 a week, instead of 2, 3, 4 knives a week. And so just a different opportunity is created by having a knife like this. And there's there's things that you're going to have to accept about it. They are just not as consistent in the quality as a GEC knife is. They're not as consistent in quality as a Rosecraft knife is, but it's also a different knife. These knives are just much more modern knife. Even though it's traditionally made, it's a much more modern knife, and it has a whole different feel and look to it than what you get is when you carry one of these. So I hope that makes sense and strikes a chord and can kind of calm your mind a little bit and bring you peace about the differences in these knives. Why can't Case make a knife like Rosecraft? Well, it's a different knife, different manufacturing philosophy, and they could probably, it would be a different knife, and it would have the look and feel that this knife has. By the way, they're not the only ones doing this, and the look and feel is pretty much the same on any company that does it. Here's another one made by modern manufacturing techniques. Really nice knife. Great user knife, this Kershaw. But again, this is made in China with modern manufacturing techniques. This one even has modern attachment hardware to it, and it's a totally different feel than you get from this knife right here. And I think you could see that in the looks of it too. So anyhow, that's just a little view into my mind and my thoughts on this issue. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you found it informative, and thank you so much for all you do for supporting the channel. Hope to see you next Tuesday. We're going to be talking about GEC knives. It's going to be good. All right. We'll see you later.